How's it going, everyone? This is Takai, and today I'm going to be talking to you guys about going into debt for film equipment.
I'll take you away to where the sun shines so bright, you can stare at the stars.
So before I get into the video, I just want to warn you guys, please take what I say with a grain of salt because this isn't going to work for everybody. And I wouldn't recommend this to somebody who doesn't know how to manage their finances properly or if they make impulsive purchasing decisions. There's different factors to consider before using debt to buy camera equipment, and I'm going to try and go over as many of them as I can in this video. So debt, as we all know, is bad, and it's something that we should avoid at all costs. But my perspective of debt changed after reading this book, Why A Students Work for C Students by Robert Kiyosaki. Doesn't it kind of look like he can be my uncle? And in the book, he describes the difference between good debt and bad debt. Bad debt is when you go into credit card debt buying things that don't make you any money, like buying a TV, buying a car, and buying video games, and so on. Typically just stuff that you buy for fun, and these are called liabilities. Liabilities is something that takes money out of your pocket instead of putting money into your pocket. Good debt is when you go into debt to buy something that makes you money. So buying camera equipment or investing into rental property is good debt because you buy those things to help you make more money that you wouldn't have been able to make if you didn't buy those things. These are known as assets. Assets require some upfront investment but pay you back over time. Like the saying, you gotta spend money to make money. Film equipment is super expensive, and a lot of times it'll take you a long time to save up for it. And don't get me wrong, I'm 100% an advocate for saving your money, especially nowadays with COVID taking our jobs.
They took our jobs!
But the one small drawback I've found to it is you're also postponing opportunities for making more money by taking the slower route of saving up for something. I'd also like to remind you guys that I'm not against saving money. Saving money will actually make it easier to confidently use credit card debt to buy equipment. And there are programs out there where if you pay off the equipment within a certain amount of time, typically 6 months, you won't have to pay any interest on it. The program that I personally use is PayPal credit. So because of not having to pay interest, it makes it even more worth it to buy that piece of equipment since smaller payments are obviously more affordable. As long as you pay more than the minimum amount that you're supposed to pay for every month, you can very likely pay off the equipment sooner than 6 months. Now, I'm not saying to go out and buy a whole rental house's worth of equipment on a credit card, and you should definitely be smart with what you choose to buy too. You should be really honest with yourself about how responsible you are with finances before doing this, because like I said in the beginning of the video, I wouldn't recommend this to somebody who doesn't know how to manage their finances properly. If you're not responsible with your finances, or if you make the minimum amount of payments every month on your credit card, or you even buy things that you can't even afford without a credit card, this is a good way to put yourself into more debt. If you're having a dry month, then adding on a huge expense is only going to add more stress to this process. And if you have a more predictable flow of work, then take a look at the amount that you'll be making from those jobs and judge for yourself how much money you'll be able to afford taking out from that rate that you get paid to put towards gear payments. But also make sure that you're paying yourself too. It's much smarter to buy some gear when you have work already lined up, and the amount of money you'll make from the work will easily pay off the gear, as opposed to buying gear in hopes of booking more work. One personal example that I can share with you guys is when I first got my camera, the Panasonic GH5S. At the time, it was a much more expensive expense for me. But the reason why I decided to pull the trigger on it is because I actually got a gig working on this podcast show called On Purpose with Jay Shetty. And at the time, I was using an A7S II, but the producer that was shooting the show wanted to shoot the show on Panasonics, and we ended up using Panasonic GH4s. And then while I was working on that set and using the GH4, I was actually really impressed with how well Panasonic cameras actually worked. So I ended up researching on Panasonic cameras and the most newest ones, and then the GH5S at the time was the most recent model. And then what made me pull the trigger on it was because this gig that I was doing was going to be an ongoing thing for the next few months. I knew that I can very easily pay it off and put the camera to work. And then the producer even offered to pay me a little bit more because it cut down the costs of renting out extra cameras. As opposed to if I didn't work on that gig at the time, making that sort of investment would have been something that I would have considered not doing at the time because the amount of income that I'd be making was a lot less predictable. So to me personally, if you have work lined up and you know that the amount of work that you have and the amount of money that you're going to be making is going to be worth the investment on the camera, and you could also pay yourself as well, that's a little bit more extra incentive to put a camera on credit. if I had not been working on that gig, it probably would have been more stressful to pay it off. And if you think about it, every time we upgrade our iPhones, you could actually do payment plans on the phone without any added interest. So it's kind of the similar idea where you take this price tag and then you split it up into different months and then not have to pay any interest. And then the reason why we do that payment plan on our phones is because there is no interest and we just pay X amount of money every month. It's the same idea with using PayPal credit to finance some gear. But I know this is a little contradictory to what I'm saying here, but if you don't have enough money in your bank account to actually just buy the equipment in cash, then I would recommend not buying it all because, you know, living is a little bit more important than buying gear. Let's say, for example, a camera costs $2,000 and you have like $2,100 in your bank account. You technically can't afford it because you need money to eat and drink water and, you know, stuff that keeps you alive. You can technically afford it if that was your situation, but at the same time, you don't want to take out money to buy that thing and then be struggling to just pay off your normal like living expenses, like, and then you'd have to be pulling out credit cards on just basic essentials like food. So debt is like a risky thing, and that's why I'm saying like you want to be careful and you want to give yourself like a little personal analysis and just be brutally honest with yourself and say like, can I realistically afford this and can I actually pay off the payments in a timely manner? Because the worst thing that you want to do is just add on more debt. Like, we all know in America, like there's a ton of people in debt and you don't want to be one of those guys because then you're going to be an asset to the bank. But if you're a person that responsibly pays off your credit card debt and actually pays off the debt within that 6 months, then you are a liability to the bank. You see what I did there?